Yes, Nanisha. Um, Dr. Ashish Bhorse is our judge for the day. He has been a dental surgeon for 20 years from 1999 to 2019, University of Mumbai gold medalist at LLB, was a full-time assistant professor at Advocate Balasaheb Apte College of Law for 5 years from 2014 to 2019, was visiting professor at various law colleges in Mumbai. Currently, Sir is an assistant professor of law at KC Law College for LLB and visiting faculty at Department of LLM, and also external examiner and moderator at SVKM's NMIMS and Kirti Mehta School of Law. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
With your
thank you.
lordship's permission, we would like to begin the petitioner side.
Sure, sir. Go ahead.
Petitioners, you may begin.
Good morning, Your Lordship. I'm the first counsel appearing for the petitioner, that is the UAVA organization. If it pleases the court, I would like to start with the facts, Your Lordships.
So you're F1, right? Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Proceed, proceed.
Your Lordship, the petitioner, here, Ishan, he lives with his mother in slum, with his mother and grandmother, who is dropped out of high school at the age of 12, Your Lordship, because of economical hardship. Your Lordship, he also helps his mother with the construction as a laborer, Your Lordship. He is friends with the boys who are between 19 and 23 of the ages, who engage in drinking, smoking, and drug, Your Lordships. One night, under the influence, they impulsively hatched a plan to loot the employer of the site. Ishan reluctantly agreed in order to buy a new smartphone, Your Lordship. They planned they planned to break in and to steal the expensive gadget and decided to leave at any time of trouble or abandon the plan if they are discovered, Your Lordship. The oldest member, that is Shiva, gave Ishan a knife, which Ishan accepted only as a safety measure, Your Lordship. After stealing, Shiva wanted to steal the wallet of the employer and phone as well, which was in the bedroom of the employer. Your Lordship, Shiva with Ishan accompanied Shiva to the bedroom where they tried to open the safe, Your Lordship, but which triggered an alarm and alerted the employer, Your Lordship. He was caught. He caught Ishan and detained Ishan as well, Your Lordship, as his wife called the police. Ishan, with the help of his friend Shiva, tried to free himself but could not. In order to free themselves, then he stabbed the employer and fled. Your Lordship, later employer succumbed to the wounds, Your Lordship. During this investigation, they were caught and apprehended, where Ishan was apprehended along with the five boys, Your Lordship. He was interrogated for over 6 hours. His request to speak to his mother and grandmother were denied, Your Lordship. And out of fear, he confessed. Later, he was charged under Section 302 of the IPC as well as Section 392. Your Lordship, the legal lawyer failed to get a bail and told his family that there was no defense possible, Your Lordship. The Juvenile Justice Board held a preliminary assessment under Section 15 and board passed an order sending him to Children's Court, Your Lordship, where he was to be tried as an adult. Your Lordship, the Children's Court found him guilty and sent him to life imprisonment, where the High Court upheld such order. Your Lordship, later the UA organization filed an appeal challenging the constitutionality of Section 15 of the Act, Your Lordship. If it pleases the Honorable Court, I would like to proceed with the contentions.
Proceed, proceed.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, our children are the greatest treasure. They are our future, and those who abuse them tear at the fabric of our society and weaken our nation. Your Lordship, these are the wise words of Mr. Nelson Mandela. If Mr. Mandela is to believe, the greatest treasure of our nation is under threat by its own legislation, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, Article 14 of the Indian Constitution says equity before the law. State shall not deny any person equity before the law or equal protection of laws within the territory of India. Your Lordship, in regards to Juvenile Justice Act, it can be seen that a juvenile from ages between 16 or 18 are discriminated against, uh, and they are denied equity before the law as well as equal protection of the law, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, Article 15 of the Indian Constitution says nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any special provisions for women and children. Your Lordship, when the Constitution says with special provision, by its very nature, it means in favor of or for sake of, your lordship. But when it's come to Section 15 of the Juvenile Justice Act, it contradicts not only Article 15 of the Constitution, but the Part 3 of the Constitution itself, your lordship. The nature and scope of the Act states an Act consolidated and amend the law relating to children alleged and found to be in conflict with the law, and children in need for care and protection by catering to their basic needs through proper care, protection, development, treatment, social reintegration, and by adapting a child-friendly approach in the adjudication and disposal of the matter in the best interest of children for their rehabilitation through the process provided and the institution and the body established here under this law. Your Lordship, but Section 15 fails to provide such social integration and social child-friendly approach, Your Lordship, and also leaves very little room for rehabilitation for such juveniles in conflict with the law. Your Lordship, it also states where the provision of the Constitution confirm powers and impose duties under Clause 3 of Article 15, Clause E and F of Article 39, Article 45, and Article 47 of the states to ensure that all the needs of the children are met and their basic human rights are protected. Here as well, Your Lordship, Section 15 clearly ignores such needs and basic human rights of such children, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, we question the constitutionality of Section 15 of the Juvenile Justice Act, which states that the juvenile above age of 16 should be tried as an adult in for certain offences, Your Lordship. This section contradicts Part 3 of the Constitution, specifically Article 15. Your Lordship, Article 15 states prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of religion, sex, caste, creed, or place of birth, Your Lordship. When it comes to Article 15, prohibition of discrimination is not limited only to the grounds of religion, sex, caste, race, or place of birth, but also on the grounds which may lead to injustice towards section of a community. In this case, this section may be children in specific age group. Your Lordship, in case of Giridhar Gopal versus the state, the Honorable Justice states, if the discrimination is based not merely on the grounds of Article 15, but also on the contradiction of property, public morals, decency, decorum, and rectitude, Your Lordship, as it can be seen in the page 19 of our compendium, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, the concept of heinous crime itself is flawed when it comes to Juvenile Justice Act. It is defined under Section 2, subsection 33 as a crime which holds punishment of minimum 7 years of imprisonment under the Indian Penal Code, Your Lordship. Here, the question arises: thus, a juvenile in conflict with the law is able to understand what constitutes a heinous crime and what does not. Whether the juvenile is able to comprehend what is the degree of a crime, Your Lordship, or does even the crime have a degree, Your Lordship, is he even capable of understanding what crime is? Your Lordship, in case of Jitendra versus State of UP, as shown in page 16 of our compendium, we can see that the juvenile in conflict with the law was treated as a child and was sentenced to imprisonment, where Justice Chandrachud himself squashed the sentence to do so, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, it is seen again and again that juvenile in conflict with the law who have tried as an adult have faced many hardship in prisons and are continuously being ill-treated. We can see in the cases such as Sanjay Suri and others versus Delhi administration and Munna versus State of UP, which are on pages 14 and 15 respectively, Your Lordship.
Yes. Proceed.
Where these juvenile in conflict with the law are being exploited by adult prisoners. They are being assaulted, Your Lordship, sexually assaulted by the prisoners. Yes, Your Lordship.
Sanjay Suri and the other one that you mentioned was?
Munna versus State of UP, Your Lordship.
Yes, proceed.
Yes. They are being exploited by the adult prisoners, Your Lordship. They are being sexually assaulted by the adult criminals, Your Lordship. Needless to say that these prisons in our country are unequipped to handle such juvenile in conflict with the law. Your Lordship, in the case of Arnit Das versus Bihar, on the page number 15, Your Lordship, the Honorable Justice says that the justice system for adults is not suitable for a juvenile in conflict with the law, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, the acts such as juvenile justice should act towards care, protection, treatment, development, and rehabilitation of juvenile in conflict with the law, and not towards condemning them to the life of misery and hardship and destroying their future. Your Lordship, it is clear from the Section 15 of the Act that it has been added only to brand a whole generation of citizens as criminals, Your Lordship, and to deny them the charge to repent their sins and pay their debt to the society, Your Lordship. This section is not only unconstitutional, but it also contradicts the basic foundation on which our founding fathers tried to build this country, Your Lordship. The architect of our constitution, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, himself, while addressing youngsters of a college in Ratnagiri back in 1937, said, "We must not condemn those who have trouble with the law and mark them as bad apples of the society, but help them to be better individuals, Your Lordship." Your Lordship, in this case, the question is not only about constitutionality of Section 15 of the Juvenile Justice Act, Your Lordship, but in this given case, Ishan, the juvenile with the conflict with the law, who is uneducated, economically backward teenager, Your Lordship, is wrongfully accused and is being tried for murder as an adult, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, the whole ordeal is unjust, unfair towards Ishan, and is absent of even the basic fundamental right for the Ishan. Not only that, but also it lacks even the basic and proper procedure, Your Lordship.
2 minutes
Firstly,
left.
Your Lordship, the procedure which has been given under Chapter 4 are not followed, Your Lordship. Section 10 states that the children shall be placed under the charge of Special Juvenile Police Unit or designated child welfare officer. In this case, he was not placed under such, Your Lordship. Section 13 of the Act says the information is to be given to the parent or guardian of the juvenile in conflict with the law, where his mother was not informed. Not only that, his repeated request to speak to his mother and grandmother were denied. Your Lordship, Section 15, subsection 5, clause A of the clause A states that the juvenile justice firm should see to that the juvenile is not ill-treated by the police. But Your Lordship, in this case, it is clearly seen that he was being ill-treated. He was refused to call his mother, and he was interrogated for over 6 hours, Your Lordship. Secondly, Your Lordship, it is clear that the legal aid lawyer which was assigned to Ishan was not only incompetent but also lacked expertise in law, or at least in the regards of Criminal Law and Juvenile Justice Act. Your Lordship, it is stated that the legal aid lawyer failed to apply bail, whereas it is clearly stated in the Section 12 of the Act that he should not be denied bail until and unless there is danger to the life of the juvenile. Your Lordship, this only goes to show how inept the legal aid lawyer is and how insufficient knowledge he possesses for the Juvenile Justice Act, Your Lordship. Not only that, it also shows how careless and indifferently the Juvenile Justice Board operates. The JJB failed to see the lack in procedure, or Your Lordship choose to ignore such lack in procedure. How, Your Lordship, they haven't taken an assistance from psychologists. How did they go forward with the assessment? Section 15 says the Act that the board shall conduct a preliminary assessment with regards to the mental and physical capacity to commit such a offense and his ability to understand the consequences. Your Lordship, the Juvenile Justice Board lacks the explanation as to how they came to such an assessment without the help of psychologists. Your Lordship, it is clearly seen that the assessment by the Juvenile Justice Board towards Ishan is prejudicial and solely based on his economic and social background. Your Lordship, the Council would like to thank for your time.
Time up.
And
Yes, counsel, yes.
yeah, next contention will be dealt by my co-counsel. Much obliged, Your
Yes,
Lordship.
please.
Your Lordship, with your due permission, the Council F2 would like to proceed with the further contentions.
Proceed, proceed.
Your Lordship, my next contention is whether the conviction of Ishan
you
under
hear me?
section. Hello? Yes, Your Lordship, you're audible.
You can proceed.
Your Lordship, my next contention is whether conviction of Ishan under section 302 of Indian Penal Code is valid. Your Lordship, talking about section 302 of IPC, it deals with the punishment for the offense of murder. But Your Lordship, it is section 300 which actually defines the offense of murder. And Your Lordship, talking about the 4 points which have been embedded under the definition of murder in section 300, itself we can come to know, after giving a bare perusal to it, we can come to know two important ingredients, and those are first one intention and secondly knowledge. Your Lordship, talking about intention in this in the case at hand, one can find out that, Your Lordship, in para 1.2 of the fact sheet itself, the word impulsively is being used. Your Lordship, that itself shows that all the members of the gang were under the fact sheet is evident to it that all the members of the gang were under influence of excessive alcohol, and it was a sudden impulse. It was a sort of a thought came to instantaneously at the spur of the moment. And further, therefore, Your Lordship, even the another side in trial court and high court failed to provide information, failed to provide evidence in order beyond reasonable
Counsel.
doubt in order to convict section 302 under in order to convict Ishan under.
Just hang on. Just hang on.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Would the MRC commission
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
the audio is because the continuity of the sentences is not being there. So
So there is a lag on your video playing in
okay,
your internet connection.
fine. Then let him proceed. I will hear. Let him proceed.
Okay. Counsel F2.
Yes, hello.
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you. Your Lordship, now further moving on to the other aspect, to the other ingredient of section 300, and that is of knowledge. Your Lordship, talking about knowledge from the case in hand, we can come to know that Ishan was a child who was under tremendous grief, who had consumed alcohol, who was under peer pressure, who was surrounded by people who was having a bad influence on him. And further, Your Lordship, one can find out that he wasn't in his normal state of mind at the time of being at the time of the commission. Your Lordship, further moving on, he was a minor, and again a person who was under was highly intoxicated. He wasn't in his he wasn't having the proper knowledge. He wasn't in a proper state of mind where he could gauge the consequences of the act of which he was committing. Therefore, Your Lordship, talking about the very two main ingredients of first intention and second of knowledge, they are failed to be proven beyond reasonable doubt. Yeah, in this particular case, Your Lordship, therefore, in the absence of intention and in the absence of knowledge, this case should be transferred from section 30. The conviction should be transferred from section 302 of the Indian Penal Code to section 304A of IPC. Your Lordship, further moving forward, in order to support my contention with case laws, Your Lordship, the first case law on page number 20, uh, in which the Honorable Bombay High Court, in the case of Sumitra versus State of Maharashtra, Your Lordship, point 18 in this particular case states that from the perusal of cross-examination, PWs 1 to 30, it is clear that there was no enmity of accused with deceased. Your Lordship, the point of enmity, the point of animosity between the accused and the person and the deceased employer, one cannot find anything to support it. Therefore, Your Lordship, in the absence of enmity, there also results in absence of intention. Further, Your Lordship, moving forward, the very last line which have been highlighted, that there is no evidence to show that accused Sumitra had any intention to kill the deceased. Therefore, the act of accused comes under section 304 of the Indian Penal Code. Your Lordship, this case very well supports even the case at hand, because Your Lordship, even in the present case, there isn't any sufficient evidence in order to show that there was any intention, that there was any presence of knowledge to kill the deceased employer. And further, Your Lordship, as it was been given in Sumitra versus State of Maharashtra, that the case was been mindfully and very rightly been transferred from section 302 of IPC to section 304 of IPC. Even the same thing should be done in this, but in the case of Ishan also. Your Lordship, now further moving on and taking our attention to the case Himachal and another versus State of UP on page number 21. Your Lordship, this case talks about that even though there is a permission to impose maximum sentence, the sentence of life imprisonment, but Your Lordship, the Honorable Allahabad High Court in this particular case, on the very last line of the first para, point number 15, they have stated that more particularly when the incident had occurred suddenly during the heat and the passion of a quarrel. Your Lordship, the suddenness, the instantaneous nature of the act itself constituted the offence under section 304, and this case law is very well is very useful, to support that contention. Further, Your Lordship, moving forward to point number 20 in this very case law, wherein the Honorable Allahabad High Court has come up with certain ingredients which are very necessary to be proven. And those are, first, the motive and magnitude of the offense on point number 20, Your Lordship. Next, the circumstances. Thirdly, the age and character. And fourth, the situation in life of the offender. Your Lordship, in order to further strengthen the support to this particular case law, I would like to also take your attention to the case on page number 22, the first case, Ramashray Chakrabarti of the state of MP. Your Lordship, again, in this particular case law, the Honorable Apex Court took notice that in order to judge the adequacy of a sentence, the nature of the offense, the circumstances of its commission, the age and character, Your Lordship, and further even there should be more more pressure upon the eye to eye correction and reformation of the offender. Your Lordship, all such extraneous circumstances, all such indirect links with the or indirect considerations should be considered by the Honorable Supreme Court, because the Honorable Allahabad High Court along with Honorable Supreme Court has said that a wholesome definition is very important when it comes to convicting an offence under section 302 of IPC. Further, Your Lordship, moving on to the case in Hemchand versus State of Haryana, on page number 21 again, Your Lordship, in this case, the Honorable Apex Court held that avoiding extreme punishment of imprisonment for life should be in rare cases and not in every cases. Your Lordship, the particular case, the case at hand, is not a rare case. It is a very prosaic and common case, Your Lordship. Further, Your Lordship, again in this case, the accused is juvenile, and the act which has been performed has been proven to be performed without any intention and further without any knowledge also. Therefore, Your Lordship, a very rehabilitative, a very reforming, a very merciful, and a very moderate attitude should be kept in mind by the Honorable Court in order to grant some punishment to the accused Ishan. Further, Your Lordship, moving forward to the case for whether this case involves a versus state of Gujarat, in which the Honorable Gujarat High Court, on page number 22, the Honorable Court held that the Honorable Court took into consideration the observation being made, by the makers of the Indian Penal Code, and it states that the offence, a summary of it states that any offence committed without any intention, any offence committed without any knowledge should be kept aside from the offences which has the capability, which has the competency to be convicted under section 302. Therefore, Your Lordship, a sort of a distinguish or a sort of a dissimilitude between both these things has been given by the Gujarat High Court, and again, Your Lordship, on in the second para of this particular case, it states that section 304A carves out a specific offence where death is caused by doing a rash or negligent act, and that does not amount to culpable homicide under section 299 or murder under section 300. Your Lordship, again taking this case and sort of looking it from the case at hand, we can come to know that even the act done by the accused man is a very rash, reckless, and negligent act, Your Lordship. He was under the influence of intoxication. He was highly inebriated. Therefore, Your Lordship, he was not having the required state of mind in order to just constitute an offence. He was completely oblivious to the circumstances which may sort of set ahead if he acts in that particular manner in which he was acting. Further, Your Lordship, taking your attention on page number 23 in Kenny's Outlines of Criminal Law, 19th edition, Your Lordship, the very last line of the page, the last para of the page, it has been stated that it presupposes that if the thought was given to the matter by the doer before the act was done, it would have been apparent to him that there was a real risk of its having the relevant harmful consequences. But
2 minutes left.
This covers a very whole range of state of mind from failing to give any thought to all to whether or not there is any risk of those harmful consequences, to recognize the existence of the risk and nevertheless deciding to ignore. Your Lordship, again it has been observed over here that the thought process, the thinking capacity of the offender should be considered. Your Lordship, now directly moving forward, due to paucity of time, to my counsel's permission to proceed to my next contention. Your Lordship, my next contention is whether the admissibility of confession taken in the police custody stands ultra to section 25 and 26 of the Evidence Act, and further whether the police investigation stands ultra to Article 21 of the Constitution. Your Lordship, talking about section 25 and section 26, it is sort of a protection to the accused, to the detainees, to the to the prisoners, in order to be saved from all the violence, torture, threat given by the police authority in order to get a confession from the offender, from the alleged offender. Further, Your Lordship, uh, talking about that, in our case at hand, Your Lordship, this is what happened in the present case also. The torture, the mental humiliation, the infringement of human rights by not providing the required means which have been set out by the DK Basu versus State of West Bengal case, Your Lordship, in which the 13 specific guidelines were been given by the Honorable Supreme Court, and they were ought to be followed, and the public authorities, the state machinery were obliged to follow them. But Your Lordship, that didn't happen in this particular case. And talking about it, Your Lordship, further, the confession, at the time of the confession also, Your Lordship, the accused Ishan was repeatedly requesting for having access to his mother or grandmother, or to the person to whom he was asking for. But Your Lordship, um, the police authorities, the state machinery deprived him, eviscerated him from having any access to any person for whom the accused was asking. Further, Your Lordship, taking your attention to the case in which I have earlier mentioned also, and it has sort of set apart a few reforms in the legal system, in the jurisprudence pertaining to the how the detainees, how the arrested should be arrested, and that case is none other than the DK Basul State of Bengal, which I earlier mentioned. Your Lordship, the point three. The guideline number 3 in this particular case on page number 27, which I have highlighted, Your Lordship, a person who has been arrested or detained and is being held in custody in a police situation or interrogation center or other lockup shall be entitled to have one friend or relative or other person to him or having interest in his welfare being informed as soon as practicable that he has been arrested and is being detained at a particular place, unless the attesting witness of the memo of arrest is himself such a friend or a relative of the arrestee. Your Lordship, over here, the Honorable Supreme Court has themselves come up with a guideline wherein the state machinery is being obliged to provide
Time up.
assistance. Uh, Your Lordship, with your due permission, I would like to sum up in less than in
Proceed. Yes, counsel, proceed.
no problem, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, now talking about the point number 3, Your Lordship, the Honorable Supreme Court themselves has only said that it is an obligation on the part of the state machinery to provide access to provide access of a friend or some relative to the arrestee or to the detainee. But Your Lordship, in this particular case, that didn't even happen. But even the repetitive request of the accused Ishan were being turned down, were being fettered. So, Your Lordship, that one can itself gauge how the gross violation of the guidelines which have been framed by the Honorable Supreme Court were not been given any reverence by the police authorities, and acted in their and acted in arbitrariness. Further, Your Lordship, this leads to the contempt, and further, Your Lordship, the state machineries, the police itself was seeming to be a harbinger to not give any adherence, to not give any obedience, and to just fetter away from giving any obligation to the guidelines which have been set down by the Honorable Supreme Court. Further, Your Lordship, now taking your attention to support my earlier contention of Section 20 and Section 26 of the Indian Evidence Act, I would like to take your attention to the case Gurudev versus State of BR on page number 26, and that of UP versus Roman Upadhyay on page number 26. Your Lordship, in both these cases, the Honorable Supreme Court has said has very succinctly said that the confessional statement is clearly inadmissible as it was been made in those particular cases by an accused before a police officer after the investigation had started. Your Lordship, even the same thing should be considered by your lordships in this particular case also, because the conviction because the confession of the accused was been given under the scrutiny of the police authorities, and further therefore it shouldn't carry any confession, it shouldn't carry any evidentiary as well as considerable value. Your lordship, now again again in case in 20 on page number 27 in Pakala Narayan Swami versus Emperor, and in R versus Murugan Ramaswamy. Again, your lordship, it has been held by the honorable court in those particular cases that uh, the police authority itself, however carefully controlled, carries a menace to those brought suddenly under its shadow, and the law recognizes and provides against the danger of such persons making incriminating confessions with the intention. Your Lordship. The remaining line is very important, your lordship. Incriminating confessions with the intention of placating the authorities and without regard to the truth of what they are saying. Your lordship, that itself says that court has taken the notice how the confession have a background while it has been coming out of the accused, that it can be made in the sense it can be made by someone in a sense just to make someone less angry, to make the police authorities less angry and hostile, and further even the accused can even come up with a own story, even though he haven't committed the crime, but still he might come up with a story in order to just save himself from the atrocities, from the torture, from the mental violence which has been committed by the police authorities, by the state machinery, when such persons, the arrestees, the detainees, are in the custody of the police. Further, your lordship, talking about it on page number 28, the last para, your lordship, uh, such following of procedure is been again been very scrutinized by the Indian Penal Code, and it says that some punitive provisions are contained in the Indian Penal Code which seeks to punish violation of right to life, and those are: first, section 220, which provides for punishment to an officer or authority who detains or keeps a person in confinement with a corrupt or malicious motive. And lastly, on the very same page, your lordship, on the very last line, section 330, again talking about section 330 and the illustration B, which very specifically states that a police officer is guilty of torturing a person when, in order to induce him to confess the commission of a crime, or to induce him to confess the crime of to confess the commission of a crime, or to induce him to point out places where stolen property is deposited. Your lordship, even though the section is a very has a very wider approach. It talks about
Uh,
everything, whether it be a, yes, your
Mr.
lordship.
Kam, yeah, can you move to your prayers? You've utilized all the time and the extra time also.
Yes, your lordship.
Come to your prayers, please.
Your lordship, the council is permission to proceed to the prayers.
Yes, yes.
Your lordship, in light of the issues raised, arguments advanced, and authorities cited, the respondents humbly praise that the honorable court be pleased to adjudge, hold, and declare the section 15 of the JJ Act of the Juvenile Justice Act ultra vires in nature and unconstitutional, and further to set aside the trial of accused from being tried as an adult, uh, and further set aside the conviction of the trial or conviction of the High Court of Dakshin Pradesh under the sections of IPC of the Indian Penal Code, and or pass any other order that this honorable court may deem fit in the interest of equity, justice, and good conscience. And for this, the counsel for the respondent shall be duty bound forever. Thank you.
Yes. Uh, MRC? Is the MRC there?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
To the respondents.
Hello, am I audible, Your Lordship?
Very much, very much. Proceed.
May it please this honorable court, this counsel on behalf of the respondent would like to present our arguments.
Yes.
With your lordship's permission, counsel would like to present a roadmap of contentions that would be raised before this honorable bench. I am counsel speaker number one. I'll be addressing the first issue, and my co-counsel speaker number two will be addressing the second and third issue. Your lordships, the urge to do something different, daring, extraordinary, filled with thrill is one of the driving forces behind the minors getting involved in heinous crimes, as well as things like peer pressure, desire for easy money, access to internet videos on crimes and pornographic material has led to this increase. Not only this, but the very knowledge of the fact that they will not be punished under the criminal system for them being juveniles has caused this increase. Your Lordship, the respondents firmly contend that the SLP filed by the petitioners under Article 136 is not maintainable. Firstly, because Article 136 does not confer a right of appeal, but merely a discretionary power of the Supreme Court to be exercised for satisfying the demands of justice under the exceptional circumstances only. Your Lordship, in case of Preetham Singh versus the state, the Supreme Court held that the power under Article 136 is to be exercised sparingly and in exceptional cases only. And in concluding the discussion on Article 136, it was held by the Supreme Court that generally speaking, this court will not grant special leave unless it is shown that exceptional cases and circumstances exist and that a substantial and grave injustice has been done. The respondent also contends that the petitioner do not seem to have a locus standi because SLPs are filed only by an aggrieved party, and even if they have come up as a third party who were not a party before to the High Court, it is very important that they show that their rights have been personally infringed. It is only then that they can file this SLP, Your Lordship. In the case of Gopal Bandhu Biswal versus Krishna Chandra Mohanty, the court said that even if they are heard as a third party who has later intervened, but even then they need to be a party that has been adversely affected by the decision in question. Your Lordship, if this organization has come up in public interest, it is very vital that they should have gone to the High Court and invoked the jurisdiction under Article 226 first, and then come to the Supreme Court. Your Lordship, if you also see in the Supreme Court rules of 2013, under Order 22, that is rules regarding specially petition and criminal proceedings, under Clause 2, Subclause 4, it says, SLPs shall be confined only to the pleadings before the court or tribunal whose order is challenged and the other documents relied upon those proceedings. No additional facts, documents, or grounds shall be stated or relied upon without express prior permission. So, how is it that the NGO has suddenly intervened and come up with a new ground saying that Section 15 is unconstitutional? This also, there is a case law of National Commission of Women versus State of Delhi of 2011, Your Lordship. If Your Lordships could come to just a moment, Your Lordship. Would come to page number 31, paragraph number 6. Paragraph number 6, if you see the second last line, Your Lordship, it says, the court does undoubtedly grant leave to the appeal under discretionary power conferred under Article 136 of Constitution of India at the behest of state or an affected private individual, but to permit anybody or an organization pro bono publico to file an appeal would be dangerous doctrine and would cause utter confusion in the criminal justice system. We are therefore of the opinion that the SLP itself was not maintainable. That's all, Your Lordships. And coming to the fundamental rights that the petitioners contend that the fundamental rights have been violated, I'd like to say that Article 14 does guarantee equal protection of laws. But it does not mean that laws need to be general in character, nor that it should be applicable to everyone, which means the same laws applies to everyone. There is a thing called reasonable classification, and I contend that whatever classification has been made under Article 15 is very much it's not at all arbitrary and it does have an intelligible differentia. In fact, identical treatment in unequal situations, in fact, would amount to inequality. Your Lordships, it's important to note that children under the age group of 18 years may have different mental capabilities since the development of brain takes place at different stages in different individuals. The severity of the crime committed may also differ, thus indicating that there are different levels of maturity. There is a well established understanding that a child of 17-year-old, his of 7-year-old, his maturity cannot be at par with that of a 17-year-old. Hence, having a blanket immunity on all children under 18 is treating them all alike, irrespective of the heinousness of the crime, irrespective of the maturity, and giving them the same kind of punishment would be extremely inappropriate. And so I contend that there is a reasonable classification, because the classification needs to be done on a broad distinguishable features, and here the features that section 15 has relied on is the firstly the nature of offense, and secondly the maturity. Coming to the point of maturity, Your Lordship, I'd like to cite a case law of S. Vardarajan versus State of Madras. It's on page 88. Your Lordship, in this case, a minor girl alleged to be taken away by the accused person had left her father's protection, knowing and having capacity to know the full import of what she was doing, and voluntarily joined the accused. Now, the court in this case held that it could not be said that the accused had taken her away from keeping of lawful guardian within the meaning of section 361 of IPC. Your Lordship, the girl being a minor, it could have been held that she is not mature enough to give consent, and the accused could have been held guilty on this very basis. But this is not what the court held. If your Lordship see in the highlighted paragraph, the court has inferred that she willingly accompanied him, that she was not a child of tender years who was unable to think for herself, but as already stated, was on the verge of attaining majority and was capable of knowing what was good and what was bad for her. Hence, Your Lordship, the point I'm trying to put forth to you is that the girl, being a minor, her consent was given importance. That she was aware of what she was doing, and even though she had not completed 18 years of age, the court has very much considered her maturity and considered her as a woman who knows what she is doing and understands the consequences of her actions. Then why is it that in case of these juvenile offenders who are committing such heinous crimes, why is it that in coming to their case it is said that their mental state is not ready for the punishment? Why is it that they are capable of committing such heinous crimes, but their mental state is not capable of taking up the punishment? Where a child is not eligible to be punished but is capable of committing rape or murder, it is against the principle of justice and principle of proportionality of punishment if he is given a blanket immunity. Your Lordship, though mens rea, that is, a guilty mind, is still difficult to be proved, as according to various researchers, the human brain keeps developing until the age of 18. But the core of understanding the graveness lies in the fact that research also shows that by the age of 5 years, human brain cultivates 85% of their personality, skill, and intellectual capability is developed. The brain recognizes and understands what an antisocial behavior is, and it has developed cognitive faculty. The fact that Ishan went to the robbery place, he went to commit that crime, that itself shows that he should have known it is an antisocial behavior. And this research that I have showed your lordship, it is an excerpt from a research on brain development and early learning by David Eddy and Deborah Schmidt. It's from the Wisconsin Council. I think also the another aspect of why such a classification is made is because the JJ Act also wants to provide protection of fundamental rights to the victim. The right to life also includes the right to justice, and the previous act, by providing a blanket immunity to the juvenile offenders and subjecting them to same punishment irrespective of severity of the crime committed by them, denied the victim the right to justice. Coming to Article 15 Clause 3, if your lordship see the objects of this act on the very first page of the JJ Act 2015, there are also terms like social reintegration, rehabilitation, restoration. Your lordships, if the punishment is kept only 3 years, irrespective of what these juvenile offenders do, it will be very easy for them to commit crimes and just get away with it only because they know that in 3 years they are going to be left out of it. We are also taking into consideration the best interest of the child, and the fact it needs to be considered that even if they are going to be tried as adults, by the age of 21 they are going to be kept in juvenile homes only, and only after that they will be sent to adult prisons. And this is your lordship under, I think, section 21, which says that they will be kept in juvenile homes only. And I think the classification is made because why 16 to 18, because at that time while making this law, there as per the statistics, there was an increase between this group only, between 16 to 18 years of age group only. And it is not that we are going to try all of them as adults. Proper measures are taken. Only the ones who have committed heinous crimes, only for them there is a preliminary assessment going to be done. And even after they do an assessment, they will check whether he has a mental and physical capacity to commit that crime. And even after that, under Section 20 of the JJ Act, even after this preliminary assessment is done, the child session court is again going to review all of this procedure and see if whether he needs to be tried as an adult or not. So I believe that there is no infringement.
2 minutes left.
That there is no infringement of Article 21 as well, nor of Article 14, because there is a reasonable classification and there is also a rational nexus to the object and the classification. The object is also about social reintegration, rehabilitation, restoration. It is very important that we do what is in the best interest of the child. And your lordships, I would like to bring this to your notice that according to the NCRB report of 2018, number of crimes involving juvenile has decreased. Overall, in 15 years, the number of crimes committed by juvenile has increased about 65%, and during 2016, there was the highest number of rise. But ever since 2016, there has been a decrease of 6% in each year. And your lordship, it may not be wrong to say that this very decrease has happened because of this amendment acting as a deterrent feature to the criminal justice system. Your Lordship, I'd like to conclude my argument by thus saying that the constitutionality need not be questioned on the grounds of infringement of fundamental rights, because fundamental rights are being protected.
Okay, the next counsel may come in.
Good morning, everyone. I am Speaker D2 and I will be addressing issues number 2 and 3. The Council seeks permission to begin with the arguments. Much obliged. The argument that we put forward starts with issue number 2, that is, whether rehabilitation with respect to heinous crimes is a solution or not. In the 2017 record of National Crime Record Bureau (NCRB), it is to be noted that 40,000 juveniles were caught across the country with IPC crimes, out of which 72% were of the age group of 16 to 18 years. That is a total of 28,800 cases. As many as 1,614 were rapes, 1,456 were other sexual assaults, 727 cases of murder, and 46 cases of attempt to rape. The primary motto of punishment is to make the convict understand of the grievous nature of the crime committed and regret his or her actions. In the recent times have witnessed some of the most brutal and heinous crimes being committed by children. Some of the infamous crimes of the juveniles are mentioned further. I would request your lordship to refer to page number 421 in the case of Mukesh and another versus State of NCT of Delhi, the Nirbhaya case, held on 5th May 2014. Referring to the facts of the case, which are in short, on 16th December 2012, the capital witnessed the most heinous crimes, whereby a physiotherapy student was brutally gang raped in a moving bus in which she was traveling with a male friend. One of the co-accused was underage. This was one of the prominent cases that brought out the flaw with the then juvenile justice system. Also, in the Bombay bomb blast case in 1993, the juvenile who was tried and convicted along with the adults under the TADA Act was denied the protection of the JJ Act 2000 on the account of the serious nature of the offence. I request your lordships to come to page number 254 of the compendium. This judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court is in the case of Mohammad Ajmal Kasab versus State of Maharashtra in 2012, in which appellant Ajmal Kasab was a juvenile. The contentions of the court were: the saddest and the most disturbing part of the case is that the appellant never showed any remorse of the terrible things he did. He made the confessional statement before the magistrate on February 17, 2009, not out of any sense of guilt or sorrow or grief, but to present himself as a hero. Even in the course of the trial, he was never repentant and did not show any sign of remorse or contrition. The judge trying him had occasion to watch him closely and has repeatedly observed about the lack of any remorse on the part of the appellant. The High Court too has noticed that the appellant never showed any remorse for the large-scale murder committed by this. To our mind, forecloses the possibility of any reform or rehabilitation of the appellant. The alternative option of life sentence is thus unquestionably excluded in the case of the appellant, and death remains the only punishment that can be given. And other relevant cases are Shakti Mills gang rape case, Hathigao rape case, Mayur Vihar murder case, minor rape and murder case, Merceries hit and run case, and Jhabua murder case. I request your lordships to further come to page number 591 of the case, in the case of Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab, held on 16th August 1982. The court said that, according to some Indian decisions, the post-murder remorse, penitence, or repentance by the murderer is not a factor which may induce the court to pass the lesser penalty. But those decisions can no longer be held to be good law in views of the current penological trends and the sentencing policy. The council would again refer to the accused juvenile in the Nirbhaya rape case. The said juvenile was sent to a reformation center, that is an NGO in Bangalore, in the light of the then Juvenile Justice Act 2000. In the Manjuka Tila shelter home, the juvenile was given food, clothing, educational skills, and also a counselor. In an interview with the counselor, the juvenile's counselor said that there was no regret on his face when I first met him, when he was arrested, nor is there any today. I didn't have to grill him to make him confess to his crime. He told me in detail about his role in the crime. Further, the council may, in support of the said argument, present that in the US National Library of Medicine, Medline Plus, puberty is defined as puberty is the time of life in when a boy or a girl becomes sexually mature and causes physical changes. It is a process that usually happens between ages 10 and 14 for girls and ages 12 and 16 for boys. In another study of the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development in the year 2014, it was verified that a child becomes psychologically mature enough to contend or know the difference between good and bad by the age he passes his puberty. Therefore, it is now a well-established medical psychological fact that the level of understanding of a 16-year-old is at par with that of an adult in case of such nature of heinous crimes. I would request your lordships to come to page number 492 in the case of Ravinder Singh Gorkhi versus State of Punjab, held on 12th May 2006. The court held that it would be a duty of the court of law to accord the benefit to a juvenile, provided he is one, to give the same benefit to a person who in fact is not a juvenile, may cause injustice to the victim. Now, I would now like to bring to attention the various acts enacted in the Republic of India. The provisions of the section 82 and 83 of the IPC have been placed to contend that while a child below 7 can't be held criminally liable, the criminality of those between 7 and 12 years of age has to be judged by the level of their mental maturity. The same principle would be applied to children beyond 12 and below 18 years of age. It is further contended that in section 4(1) of the Motor Vehicles Act, the age of the person after which one can drive a motor vehicle in public place is set at 18 years. Also, since 1978, the minimum legal age for marriage has been 18 for women and 21 for men. Council would further present the Honorable Supreme Court the judgment of Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab in page number 590, held on 16th August 1982. The court was of the opinion that in several states of India, there are in force special enactments according to which a child, that is, a person who at the age of murder was less than 16 years of age, cannot be tried, convicted, or sentenced to death or imprisonment for life for murder, nor dealt with according to the same procedure as an adult. In the light of the above various acts where the age limit is varying from 12 to 18 years, which in fact is considering the purpose and objective of the act. So, looking at the purpose and aims and objectives of the Juvenile Justice Act, which is to punish the criminals and not to say, which is to punish the criminals and not to save them. Section 15 was introduced. Therefore, considering the purpose of the JJ Act, the true test of juvenility is not on the age, but in the level of mental maturity of the offender. If your lordships are convinced with my arguments on the second issue, the council seeks permission to proceed with the next issue.
Yes, proceed.
Much. The next issue before the Honorable Court is whether the Juvenile Justice Act 2015, Section 15, is in consonance with the international agreements. I would request your lordships to come to page number 701 of the compendium. In the case of Ram Jethmalani versus the Union of India, it was stated that Article 31, General Rules of Interpretation of the Vienna Convention of the Law of Treaties 1961, provides that the treaty shall be interpreted in good faith in accordance with the ordinary meaning to be given, the terms of treaty, their context, and in the light of its object and purpose. Council further would read Article 1 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Children, UNCRC, to which Republic of India is a signatory. Article 1. For the purposes of the present convention, a child means every human being below the age of 18 years, unless majority under the national legislation is attained earlier. It can clearly be interpreted that it is not compulsory that the age of majority should be 18 only. It depends on the national legislation enacted for the purpose of the act. Further, the council submits that Republic of India is a signatory to the UNCRC out of the other 196 countries, including UK, USA, Canada, etc. In UK, persons under the age of 18 are tried by a youth court, which is a special type of magistrates court for those aged 10 to 18 years. However, for serious crimes like murder or rape, the cases start in youth court but are then transferred to a crown court, which is the same as sessions court. The crown court can sentence the child for grave crimes, including sexual assault, and sentence the child to intermediate detention for public protection. In USA, age at which a juvenile can be tried as an adult is 13 years per the federal law, which varies across different states. Also in Canada, this age bar is set at 14 years. Further, it also contends with the United Nations rules for the protection of juveniles deprived of their liberty 1990, the Havana rules, and other international treaties that India is a signatory to, including the Riyadh Guidelines, as truly stated in the preamble of the JJ Act. Thus, it is submitted before the Honorable Court that the Juvenile Justice Act 2015, Section 15, is in consonance with the international agreements and is intra legum to Republic of India.
Two
Further, the
minutes
council
left.
contains
Okay.
Yes.
We can.
Further, the council contends that such brutal and cold-blooded criminals should not be set free in the society who create an additional threat to the public in general. The Act has innocently protected the identity of these juveniles in conflict with law, thus giving them easy access to further crimes. The amendment that has been challenged gives justice to the victims and protection to the society. The council would like to end the arguments on behalf of the respondents by quoting, "An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure." In the light of the issues raised, arguments advanced, and authorities cited, this honorable court be pleased to dismiss the above specially petition filed by the appellants. Secondly, declare and hold that Section 15 of the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 is constitutional. Thirdly, declare and hold that Section 15 of the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 is in consonance with India's international obligations, and or pass any order that it deems fit in the interest of justice, equity, and good conscience. And for this, the respondents, as in duty bound, shall humbly pray. Thank you.
We come to the petitioners. Yes.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Council D1. Yeah, under what provision of the Constitution have you moved this appeal?
Uh,
Sorry. What provision?
Your Lordship, Your Lordship, we do come in front of this court under Article 136, Your Lordship. But Your Lordship, in case of Article 136, in the case of Rafiq versus State of UP, it is clearly stated that Honorable Justice Kushner here that we really evoke the special jurisdiction under Article 136 Constitution, which is meant mainly correct, manifest injustice or errors of the law of a great movement, Your Lordship, which can be seen in our contention page number 14, Your Lordships, in the case of Russell versus State of UP, Your Lordship.
What is the citation?
Your Lordship, it is 1989 AIR 559. Your Lordship, it is in our compendium page number 14.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Counsel,
Yes, Your Lordship. Yes, Your Lordship.
you have repeatedly mentioned Article 14 and equity.
Yes, Your Lordship.
So, I'd like to understand equity and equality are the same.
Your Lordship, the equity because the crimes committed, which are hello.
Yes, proceed.
Yes, Your Lordship. In the case of Juvenile Justice Act, Your Lordship, there is no equity for the children who have committed heinous offence under Section 60, Section 2 or subsection 33 of the Juvenile Justice Act, Your Lordship. They are not being equally treated like every other juvenile should be treated under the age of 18, Your Lordship.
So what I understand, counsel, is that you believe that equity is also related to criminal law. That is what I.
Yes, Your Lordship. Regarding the criminal, everyone should have equity in front of law to have or stand in front of the courts, Your Lordships. As we can see in the writ of habeas corpus, Your Lordships.
So summary,
Sorry, Your Lordship.
equity and equality. What you say?
I can hear you, Your Lordships.
Are you able to hear now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So summary, what I understand is, in your understanding, equity and equality mean the same.
No, Your Lordship. Of course not. Equity and equality are different concepts when it comes to constitutional law, Your Lordship.
So equity plays an important role here, right?
Yes, Your Lordship.
Yes. Okay. Now tell me, what is your locus standi? As an organization, what is the locus standi of that organization? Can you justify that?
Hello.
Yes.
What is the question for me, right, Your Lordship?
I'm talking about locus standi of the UA organization called UA.
Your Lordship, the juvenile has been mistreated by the board, Your Lordship, the Juvenile Justice Board, as well as he has been wrongfully accused under the murder of the employer, Your Lordship. Now, that is why we come to this honorable court, Your Lordship, because he was being mistreated and the procedures are not followed. The Juvenile Justice Board is prejudicial towards the accused, Your Lordship, towards the juvenile conflict of the law.
Fair enough, counsel, but does your locus standi as the organization UA come into picture? I mean, what is the locus standi of that organization whom you are representing?
Your Lordship, we try to move upon the human rights where human rights are being infringed, Your Lordship.
So you mean to say that because of that you have a sufficient locus standi?
We would like to think so, Your Lordship.
Okay. What is the purpose and object behind enactment of the Juvenile Justice Act of 2016?
Your Lordship, according to its scope and nature, it says to take care and protection of the children, Your Lordship. The full act itself, Your Lordship, said the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection for Children Act of 2015, Your Lordship.
Yes. So and then there's one more thing that you mentioned very categorically.
Yes, Your Lordship.
That the very concept of heinous crime is a fraud. Did you mention so?
Yes, Your Lordship.
How do you justify that concept?
Your Lordship, crimes such as murder, rape, and terrorism, Your Lordship, they are indeed heinous crimes, Your Lordship. But one cannot just put the word, object to the word where the minimum the minimum imprisonment for 7 years has been given, Your Lordship, where it has not justified what crime does it come under, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, just because recent crimes such as murder and rape have the punishment above 7 years, Your Lordship, does not mean that one can categorize every crime as heinous crimes, which is above which has the punishment above 7 years, Your Lordship.
Coming to your prayers, counsel, your first prayer is about the constitutionality.
Yes, Your Lordship.
What is for
Hello.
the, am I
Yes, Your
audible?
Lordship. Yes, Your Lordship.
The next question is very specific. So I understand that the constitutionality of the act is your most important contention, right?
Constitutionality of Article Section 15, Your Lordship.
Correct, correct. Section 15. Okay.
Yes, Your Lordship.
To know what is the strongest point that you would like to put forth for seeking, an order that this section is constitutionally valid.
Your Lordship, the basic purpose of the in that section it says the juvenile justice board, which has been said, should preliminary assess whether the juvenile conflict with the law has committed his crime, or should he be sent to the children's court, Your Lordship, where it does not, where they have given the ability to them to see whether his mental and physical capacity to commit such offense and ability and understand consequences is given, Your Lordship. And which has also said that board may take the assistance of psychologist and psychiatrist, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, if you see the section 4 of the Act, the um, constitution of the board, it clearly says that the subsection 5 of the section says that the government shall ensure the instruction and training sensation of all the members, including the principal magistrate of the board of care, protection, rehabilitation, so on and so forth, to provide it with a period of 60 days from date of appointment. Your Lordship, the training within 60 days, it is impossible to comprehend the complexity of a human mind, especially juvenile human mind, to be in 60 days, Your Lordship. Besides, the members of the board are not psychologists. It is not specifically clarified that they should have any psychiatric experience, or what, or how should they assess the juvenile in conflict with the law, Your Lordship.
Counsel, do you think that you have exhausted all the alternative legal remedies first before moving the Supreme Court under 136?
Yes, Your Lordship. The case was forwarded to Children's Court, Your Lordship, where they convicted him under they convicted him for Section 302 and 392, where he again approached to the High Court, where the High Court upheld the order of the Children's Court, Your Lordship. Therefore, we seek the minds of the Supreme Court, Your Lordship, this honorable court.
I would want Counsel F2 to come in.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Counsel, you have to first of all justify how does Section 304A come into place here, and is it the right forum to to say this, that it is not in 300 and it is in 304A?
Your Lordship, talking regarding the validity of the conviction under Section 302, as I rightly mentioned in my arguments also, that in failure of not getting beyond reasonable doubt the intention, the knowledge behind the commission of a particular act, that itself shows the recklessness, the negligence. Your Lordship, again, the word reluctantly has been used in the fact sheet in para 1.2. Your Lordship, the word reluctantly itself states that he was hesitant to commit the crime, but still under peer pressure, he was being carried away and been taken to that particular place. And over there also, Your Lordship, as it has been stated clearly, very succinctly in the fact sheet itself, that all the members in the gang were highly intoxicated, and as they had consumed excessive alcohol. Therefore, Your Lordship, the crimes wherein there is no presence of intention nor any presence of knowledge itself, such reckless and such negligent act should be constituted under a definition of section 304A of the Indian Penal Code.
So in this case, if there is if this court orders a retrial, would you be satisfied with that order?
Your Lordship, as there have been repetitive in, actions in this particular case, whether it be at the stage of trial court or whether it be at the Honorable High Court. Your Lordship, we will see that in all the prior two forums, the accused didn't get the required legal expertise on behalf of the lawyer. The lawyer wasn't having the legal expertise nor the competence in order to just give a proper legal advice to the accused. And Your Lordship, as the trial court and the Honorable High Court, they have sort of upheld the conviction under section 302 of IPC. That itself shows in order to give a remedy in order to take out the accused out of section 302 and to bring in to section 304. The fulcrum of the Honorable Supreme Court is the only place where the accused can seek justice.
Counsel, really believe Article 136 is one such provision where you can challenge or you can make remarks about the incapacity or inefficiency of a legal aid lawyer in the High Court.
Your Lordship, the presence of incapacity, the presence of incompetence, and even the presence of a failure to give proper legal expertise has been one of the very important part of the whole case. And therefore, Your Lordship, when such issues are not being addressed, are not being considered at the fulcrum of trial court, at the fulcrum of Honorable High Court, then the only remedy which the accused can have is to approach to the Honorable Supreme Court.
Yeah, that is fine, but whether this is the correct provision, this is the appropriate provision for that.
Yes, Your Lordship, Article 136, as it talks for a special leave petition on the discretion on the discretion of the Honorable Supreme Court, and wherein there is a gross violation of all the fundamental rights, and if found any substantial and grave injury being done to the accused, then Your Lordship, Article 136 itself is the only thing under which the accused can seek justice.
Counsel. Counsel, can you hear me?
Yes, Your Lordship.
Where is the question of fundamental rights in Article 1? Can you read Article 136, please?
Article 136, special leave to appeal by the Supreme Court. Notwithstanding anything in this chapter, the Supreme Court may, in its discretion, grant a special leave to appeal from any judgment, decree, determination, sentence, or order in any cause or matter passed or made by any court or tribunal in the territory of India. Second, nothing in clause 1 shall apply to any judgment, determination, sentence, or orders passed or made by any court or tribunal constituted by or under any law relating to the armed forces.
So, Counsel, where is your ground?
Your Lordship, your voice breaks in between now. Hello? I wasn't able to hear the whole sentence which you said.
You mentioned the gross violation of fundamental rights, right, Counsel?
Yes, Your Lordship.
So,
Yes, your Lordship, in the flow of saying it came out, but Your Lordship, there is gross violation of rights, and there is substantial and grave injury being done to the accused, because Your Lordship, the accused being a juvenile, being under the age of 18, has been very wrongfully been brought in under the category of being treated as an adult. Therefore, Your Lordship, uh, the accused seeks to come to the Supreme Court under Article 136 to
Yes, yes. Okay. Okay. Proceed, counsel. Counsel, can you hear me?
yes, Your Lordship.
Counsel, just can you just enumerate your prayers, in brief, in a
Yes,
gist?
Your Lordship. In light of the issues raised, arguments advanced, and authorities cited, the respondent humbly pray, the petitioner, the appellant humbly prays that the honorable court be pleased to adjudge, hold, and declare the section 15 of the Juvenile Justice Act ultra vires in nature and unconstitutional, and further, secondly, to set aside the trial of accused from being treated as an adult, and further set aside the conviction conviction considered by the trial court and the Honorable High Court of Dakshin Pradesh under the sections of IPC, and or pass any other order that this honorable court may deem fit in the interest of equity, justice, and good conscience. And for this, the counsel for the
Now
respondent
this,
shall be duty bound forever.
yes, yes. Counsel, regarding the second and third prayers, you want to set aside the trial also and the conviction also. How do we?
Your Lordship, it was regarding setting aside the wrongful application in which the accused was being brought under the purview of being treated as an adult. Your Lordship, it is regarding that to set aside the label of adult which has been given under which the trial under which in the trial court and in the honorable high court he was being treated as an adult, to set aside that.
Uh, Counsel D1, please.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Are you there? Yes, yes.
Yes,
Uh, yeah, is my voice audible to you?
yes, Your Lordship.
Hello.
Yes,
Am I audible
yes,
to you?
yes, I can hear you.
You had mentioned about some judgment regarding the sparingly used
Yes, it was
Article
Pritam
13.
Singh. It was
Yes,
Pritam
yes.
Singh versus.
Can you tell me the year of this judgment?
Um, it was year 1950, Your Lordship.
Okay. 19?
50.
1950. Great. Now tell me, you mentioned that there's something is a dangerous doctrine. What is that? What is a dangerous doctrine that you mentioned?
I think I mentioned when I mentioned a case law of National Commission of Women, I said that the court has said that it would be dangerous bringing in public organizations to appeal under Article 136.
Okay. Now regarding the SLP that they have filed, you have also mentioned that no additional facts have to be pleaded.
Yeah,
Right.
as per the rules of the Supreme Court.
What rule did you mention? Do you recollect that?
Yes, I will tell you, Your Lordship. It was rule number uh, rule number 22. It's called Order 22 in Roman numbers. Special leave petitions in criminal proceedings, and clause 2, subclause 4.
Okay. Would you be able to read that relevant provision? Is it possible?
Yes, Your Lordship. It says the SLPs shall be confined only to the pleadings before the court or tribunal whose order is challenged and the other documents relied upon in those proceedings. No additional facts, documents, or grounds shall be stated or relied upon without express prior permission of the court obtained on an application made for this purpose.
I would want either of the F1 or F2 to to counter this. I mean, to come over and argue on this matter. How do you justify citation of facts and all?
Your Lordship, Your Lordship is clear stated. Hello,
Yes, proceed.
hello.
Yes, still proceed. I can hear
Uh,
you.
Your Lordship, it is clearly seen in the previous courts, in the lower courts, Your Lordship, the proper evidence was not come forward, and the proper representation for Ishan was not given, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, even when it was transferred to the children's case, Your Lordship, it is clearly seen that they did not have their own assessment in regards to the mentality or the mental ability of the juvenile in conflict with the law, Your Lordship. Similarly, with the London High Court, we can see uh, that he was poorly represented in Your Lordship. Therefore, we come to this honorable court, Your Lordship.
Council, but can we, can we just, do away with the rules of the Supreme Court? Do you understand the validity, the legality, the position of the rules, the Supreme Court rules? What are they framed for?
Your Lordship, for the very purpose of justice, Your Lordship.
Now, what is the exact purpose with which the Supreme Court itself decides its procedures and it frames rules for it? What is that?
Your Lordship, so that nothing we should do, nothing
Yes.
which my apologies, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, so that nothing unnecessary or burning cases comes out of the honorable court or waste the valuable time of such court, Your Lordship.
So is it not in your case you have not adhered to this rule, Council? Do you admit that you have not adhered to this rule?
No, Your Worship, we are here because the low courts could not could not properly adjust, could not properly judge the juvenile in conflict with the law, Your Worship. There was there clearly lack the care and protection for the juvenile, Your Worship, especially seen in the juvenile in case of juvenile justice board and the children's court, Your Worship.
Council, are you seeking that the entire section 15 be declared unconstitutional or a part of it?
Your Lordship, we seek for the part which specifically in case of the Juvenile Justice Board and the part where, and Your Lordship, the uh, categorization of the crimes as heinous crimes, Your Lordship.
So you want, I mean, your prayer is that a portion of section 15 of the JJ Act be declared unconstitutional, right?
Your Lordship, in case of the section 15, it said the heinous offences, Your Lordship. We object to the definition of heinous offence itself. For the setting it as a minimum for 7 years, as well as the capacity of the juvenile justice board to assess the juveniles psychological, mentally, and psychologically, Your Lordship. So,
Where is the word? Where is the expression heinous offense defined? Is it defined in section 15 or is it defined somewhere else?
it's defined in section 2, subsection 33 of the Act, Your Lordship.
Okay, so why did you not mention in the prayers that it was that particular section also declared unconstitutional? The defining section.
Apologies, Your Lordship.
Furthermore,
We
council
consider,
can
we
yeah,
consider that, yes, Your
yeah,
Lordship.
can a defining section be declared unconstitutional ever?
Uh, Your Lordship, it infringes on the right of the citizen and the basic fundamental rights of the citizens, Your Lordship. Then it must be declared unconstitutional, Your Lordship.
I would like to call Council D2.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Yes, Council D2, just a moment. Council, Bachan Singh versus
Yes,
State
Your
of
Lordship.
Punjab. You cited, right? Council.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Did you cite Bachan Singh? Right?
Yes, Your Lordship.
Yeah. What was the ratio in Bachan Singh that is relevant to this particular case?
Lordship, just give me a moment. I will be citing the relevant part.
Council. Council.
Yes, Your Lordship.
For citing the ratio, you actually need
Your
not go and
Lordship,
search. Yes, yes.
so in the judgment in page number 591, I wanted to highlight the part where the court contended that that after the murder is committed by an accused, his post-murder remorse or penitence or repentance, that is guilt felt by him, should also be considered as a factor when a decision is being passed by any court of law. This
So
is the
how,
part where
so how do you bring that into our present case? I mean, what is it? What is the
yes,
connection? The
so my dear. Yes, Lordship. So the opposing counsel said that the intentional knowledge is very important for a crime to be held. So firstly, when the accused is going to the house of the employer, the deceased employer, he is going with a malified intention of robbery, and then he is carrying a knife with him. So your lordship, the whole intention, and he also had the knowledge that something could happen, so that is why he was carrying a knife with him. So the whole intention of going to the deceased employer's house, and then robbing the house, and then the murder, which was instantaneously committed, as was said by the opposing counsel, it also is committed under the purview of the malified intention, your lordship. And also I would like to contend that yuva, that is a child rights organization, and which says the human rights of the minor of the accused is to be safe, is the where were they when a minor was raped? I'm just citing two cases where a minor was raped. That is Hathira rape case, which is in September. A 12-year-old minor girl was raped by dragging her to an abandoned place, and they have been dipping her through the night. The boys were the neighbors of the victim, minor girl. Again, minor rape case in April 2015, Chandigarh police arrested a juvenile for kidnapping and murder of a minor girl. So are not the human rights of these minor girls should be protected by the Juvenile Justice Act? Are they not committing? Are they not having substantial and grave injury? The very minor girls who have been raped. Where,
council, uh, council, can you hear me? Yeah.
yes, Your
Council,
Lordship.
yeah, just give me, just advance an argument in 2 to 3 minutes as to why the first prayer of the petitioners or applicants should not be granted regarding constitutionality, declaring the section or a part of the section as unconstitutional. Why that should not be done?
Yes, Your Lordship. Yes, Your Lordship. Because it is not arbitrary in the first place, and it is not harming any fundamental rights. The whatever intending that the juveniles are not being protected, but but we are also thinking about the juveniles. We are not treating them arbitrarily. The juvenile justice board will think about the issue, whether he should be treated as an adult in the first place, and if also he has been treated as an adult and he has been given the punishment of an adult, they have been sent to observation center first. They have been kept there for 21 years, till the age of 21 years, and after which only again an assessment has to be held, and then they have to be either sent to further jail, or Hello?
Yeah,
Or
proceed, proceed.
left. So we are also protecting their fundamental rights, but then these cold-blooded murderers should not be left in the society in the first place. Where are the if they are left in the society, then there is no justice to the victim in the first place, and secondly, the society is again in danger. Their fundamental right is ensured harm if these criminals are left in the society. We
Okay, counsel.
Yes, my lord.
Yeah, yeah. You may wait for a moment. I would just call the MRC for a moment here.
Yes, your lord. Thank you.
MRC is here.
Yes, sir.
Is there a mandated provision?
Yes, Your Lordship.
So let's have you the, the petitioners.
Yes, sir.
Even sorry.
FF1.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
F1.
Yes, Your Lordship.
How do you counter
I
the
can hear you, Your Lordship.
last argument?
F1, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but the
Yes.
Washington is not audible.
Okay.
But the MRC, the event head can hear me.
Sir, your voice is cracking a little bit in between.
I am also getting some disturbance here.
Yeah, there is some disturbance. Yeah.
Now it's not there. Now it's not there at all.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, Your
Yes.
Lordship.
Yes, F1.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Yeah. What I'm asking you is, how do you counter the arguments that were last advanced by both the respondents?
Your Lordship, firstly, in the case of as they have stated repeatedly that the children, the juvenile in conflict with the law, should be in children's homes, Your Lordship, which clearly we can see in the case of Sanjay Suri versus the administration, as well as in Munna and Your Lordship, that they are not sent to the children's home, Your Lordship. Instead, they are being sent to the adult prison, Your Lordship. These are the cases that we know of, Your Lordship.
Okay.
Yes, Your Lordship. As well as you. Hello.
Yes, yes, proceed.
Yeah, that is all. Your Lordship, as we can see in the case of the Munna versus state of UP, it is clearly stated in the page number 4 of 15 of our compendium. It is clearly saying that Kanpur Central Jail, instead of being sent to the children's home, they are being sexually exploited by the adult prisoners, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, we question whether the uh, children's homes are safe for the such juveniles or not. Your Lordship, the on the learned council says that rehabilitation of the states that react to the care, protection, and rehabilitation is in the act, Your Lordship. But where in case of Ishan, there he's been sent in for life imprisonment, Your Lordship. What chance there is he does he have for Your Lordship for rehabilitation? Your Lordship, learned council also says that hello.
Yes, yes, proceed,
Uh,
proceed.
uh,
You're
learn-
audible.
yes, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, learned council also states that what is the right about the people, the minor girl who has been raped, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, as we previously said that crimes such as rape and terrorism are far too grievous, Your Lordship, to be considered in the definition of heinous crimes, Your Lordship. They are far too grievous to be even called heinous crimes, Your Lordship. But in current case, it is clearly stated that the accused that is the juvenile conflict with the law, is not without has not been proven beyond reasonable doubt that he has murdered the employer, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, it is not even proven by the respondent that whether the stabs, the wounds on the employer were by Ishan only, or were they by Shiva as well. They have only said that there were repeated stabbing to the employer, Your Lordship, but it does not clear that how many times the Ishan, the juvenile conflict with the law, has stabbed, whether it comes under murder or not, Your Lordship.
Counsel, there is something called as there is a presumption that is applicable in cases like this, wherein the constitutional validity of a particular legislation is challenged. Are you aware
Yes,
of that?
Yes, Your Lordship.
What is that?
Uh,
What presumption arises?
Hello.
Yes, counsel. What is the presumption that applies in such cases?
Uh, my apologies, Your Lordship. I'm unaware of such.
The adverse party, D1, D2, any one of you? The respondents?
Yes, Your Lordship, I apologize. I'm not aware of the answer.
So the parties are here seeking the first prayer that the petitioner is seeking is regarding declaring that a particular section or a part of a section is to be declared as unconstitutional. And there is an ignorance on both the sides regarding that presumption. Anything that you would like to say that why this prayer should not be should not be granted by this court, D1 or D2?
Your Lord, malicious confinement is what is contended by the opposing counsel. Now, for this, the appropriate authorities are to be blamed. Not the solution is not that you have to scrape out the whole section 15 of the act and keep it unconstitutional. The part where the authorities are to be they are not doing their job, so it is not the section that is unconstitutional. The authorities are to be blamed for that.
D1?
Yes, I absolutely agree, Your Lordship. I think just because of this fact, the whole law need not be made unconstitutional, because the very amendment is made for these exceptional cases where heinous crimes are done. It is totally the duty of the appropriate authorities to look after the violence done in the imprisonments.
F2, Council F2.
Yes, Your Lordship.
So, Council F2, do you believe that you have made out a strong case for seeking a prayer of declaring this section unconstitutional?
Yes, Your Lordship.
Can you just highlight the major contentions that you have put forth that convinces this court that the section be declared unconstitutional?
Surely, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, talking about Section 15 of the Juvenile Justice Act, in contravention of Article 15.3, Your Lordship, perusal to Article 15.3 itself states, uh, Your Lordship, a perusal to Article 15.3 itself states that nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any special provision for women and children. Your Lordship, the special provision which is being sought in this particular article is for the benefit for the society at large, is for the benefit for women and children, and not for confining a and not for preparing a very different class wherein they will be treated in a very different manner. It is only for the benefit. It can be only be made. Its constitutional validity is only depend upon if it is beneficial to women and children. And this case, Your Lordship, it is not beneficial to the children because talking about Section 15 of Juvenile Justice Act, it totally the very big the very initial lines of it says that it is based upon it is based upon a satisfaction of the of various authorities of probation officer. Your lordship, that subjective satisfaction itself seems to be arbitrary, and itself seems to be arbitrary and will differ from person and will differ from one authority to another authority.
Fair. Uh, Now, what we will do is, hello,
Yes, your lordship.
Yes,
each
Your
of you,
Lordship.
beginning with F1, then F2, D1, and D2, would be given a single minute each to put forth your best, arguments as to why your prayer should be granted. We begin with F1. Kindly, the time we kept. This is 60 seconds for each of them.
Shall I begin, Your Lordship?
Yes, yes.
Uh, Your Lordship, as we can see that Article 15, as my learned co-counsel put forth that it is for a special provision for women and children, Your Lordship. In this case, the Article 15 defines that Section 15 defines that article, Your Lordship. For the provisions are not in care for the juveniles in conflict with the law, Your Lordship, and they are clearly against them, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, and again the question comes about the heinous crimes where you cannot uh, categorize every offense such grievous as such murder and rape as to heinous crimes and put the word minimum 7 years and categorize it as heinous, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, as well as the juvenile justice board, it clearly lacks the expertise to assess, especially mentally assess the juveniles, Your Lordship, in conflict with the law. Much obliged, Your Lordship.
Council F2.
Your Lordship, speaking in support of the prayer, the first contention, which is to declare Section 15 of Juvenile Justice Act ultra vires in nature and unconstitutional. Your Lordship, as I've earlier also mentioned regarding the constitutional validity under Section 15(3) and the subject to satisfaction, Your Lordship, it plays a very important role because it shouldn't be under the depend upon the whims and caprices. It shouldn't be depend upon the subject to satisfaction of few authorities of the probation officer, Your Lordship. And further talking about secondly, regarding to set aside the trial of accused from being treated as adult, and further set aside the conviction of trial and High Court of Dakshin Pradesh from the sections of IPC of the Indian Penal Code. Your Lordship, talking about it, Your Lordship, even the my learned friend from the opposing side, Speaker D2, even she has even the learned council has mentioned that there should be given a fair treatment to convicts aged between 12 to 18 years in her arguments, Your Lordship. Therefore, Your Lordship, even the respondents somehow impliedly agree that the distinction is not fair enough between that, and he has been and that the Ishan has been wrongfully been convicted as an adult, Your Lordship, under Section 302 of IPC.
F1 and F2. F1 first. Sorry. I'm sorry. D1. D1.
Uh, yes, yes, Your Lordship. I want, in support of saying that Section 15 is very much in consonance with the Constitution. I want to say that yes, as per the JJ Act, the definition of child says everyone who is under the age of 18. But Your Lordship, in the past cases, there have been exceptional cases where even children who are below 18 years of age and above 16, there have been such exceptional heinous crimes done, and it is for those very exceptions that this very amendment was made. It and it is done to make sure that no innocent is punished wrongly, and for that very purpose there is a preliminary board assessment done. There are appropriate measures are going to be taken to make sure that no innocent is going to be convicted or tried as an adult wrongly. And Your Lordship, if you see in juvenile laws across the globe, USA accounts to more juveniles, imprisoning more juveniles than any other country. In UK, 10 to 18 are directly tried as adults. In France, 16 to 18 are directly tried as adults. Whereas in India, we are at least taking the measures to make sure that no innocent is punished wrongly. We are going to do the preliminary board assessment just to make sure if the child has mental and physical capacity of as that of an adult, and only then he will be tried as an adult. So, Your Lordship, I believe that this section is made for those exceptional cases, and the classification is not arbitrary. Hence, Your Lordship, I strongly contend that Section 15 does not violate any fundamental rights.
Your
Me
Lordship,
too.
I would, yes, Your Lordship. I would again highlight the fact that Yuva, which is a child rights organization, only seeks and realizes the child rights of the criminal juveniles and not the victims who are also juveniles. Further, it would be highly contrary to leave such hardened criminals in the society. Also, it is in the discretion of the Honorable Supreme Court to again look into the matter. The section 15 is not treating any juvenile arbitrarily. We are also there to protect the juveniles and to treat them in a good manner. Further, the section 82 and 83 of the IPC also contend that the criminal liability of those between 7 and 12 is also judged by the level of their mental maturity. So it is also in consonance with the other laws of Republic of India, and therefore is not unconstitutional. Thank you.
Uh, Either of F1 or F2. Am I audible? Either of F1 or F2. Can you hear me?
Your Lordship, we can hear you.
Yes, Your
Yeah,
Lordship.
either of you. I mean, either of you would have to tell me that one single Supreme Court judgment that you rely, that one single Supreme Court judgment that you rely upon to substantiate your case. You may take a little bit time for this, and the same applies to the respondents also. That judgment on which you would rely for your own case.
Your Lordship, with your due permission, I would like to answer that question.
Yes, yes.
Your Lordship, I've cited this case on page 24. Uh, Balwant Singh versus State of Punjab, Your Lordship. It has been stated over there that in point number 8, then the question would be whether an offense under section 304 IPC is made out. The provisions of this section applies to cases where there is first no intention to cause death, and secondly there is no knowledge that the act done in all probabilities will cause death, Your Lordship. Therefore, this reading the case law. Therefore, this provision is related to offences outside the range of section 299 and section 300 of IPC, and obviously contemplates those cases into which there is neither intention and nor any knowledge, and where there is no knowledge.
Okay. Coming to the respondents, any one of you.
Yes, Your Lordship. I would like to cite the judgment in the case of Mohammad Ajmal Kasab versus State of Maharashtra in 2012, in which the appellant Ajmal Kasab was also a juvenile. We already know the contentions of the court, where he was held in the judicial custody, and also for death penalty for the extreme and grievous and serious nature of the offense that he had committed.
Okay, it's fine. Courtroom coordinator.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we are done.
Okay, sir.
Now, what is the
Fine.
further? Yes.
Sir, you may just calculate the marks and forward the mark sheet to us. I would just like to simultaneously propose a vote of thanks with your Lordship's
Yes.
permission. I would like
Go
to
ahead, go
thank
ahead.
Dr. Ashish Borse, sir, for judging our first semi-finals this morning. I would also like to extend my humble gratitude towards our principal, Professor Vaishali Gura, our faculty in charge of the Moot Court Society, Professor Pradni Sahu. To all the participants, congratulations. Your semi-finals results will be declared at the end of the day. To all the faculty in charge of our college and my co-members of the Moot Court Society. Thank you so much for gracing this event. Thank you, sir, for sparing time this morning.
Your Lordship, Hello.
Thank you so much. Yes,
Thank
please,
you,
yes.
Your Lordship.
Your Lordship, if I could ask just a single question, Your Lordship, if it pleases the court.
You want to ask a question?
Yes, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, what would it please the court if we came under Article 134 of the Constitution instead of Article 136 of the Constitution, Your Lordship?
That is for me to.
Sorry, Your Lordship.
This is not the.
My apologies, Your Lordship.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome. Thank you.